History of the Indiana State Sanatorium goes back to 1905, when the state of Indiana appointed a committee to investigate the need for a state-run tuberculosis institution. The committee must have found that need, because in 1907, the state legislature appropriated $250,000 toward buying a site, and a second committee was appointed to find a location for the institute. In 1909, the decision on a location was determined to be a 504-acre plot just east of Rockville, Indiana. A second funds request was approved, enough to build a hospital, administration building, powerhouse, and 2 pavilions, one for the men and one for the women. The main ward had outdoor porches spanning the entire length of the building in order to provide the maximum amount of sun and fresh air to its patients. And so this was when the Indiana State Sanatorium, or sometimes called the Indiana Tuberculosis Hospital, was opened. By 1911, the property had a farm and workers, making the sanatorium completely self-sufficient. A school was added in 1918, plus adding a superintendent's quarters and 2 bungalows for physicians in 1922. A covered bridge was added in 1913 to move coal across Little Raccoon Creek. The bridge collapsed by 2009, but was rebuilt and relocated to a public road. Further changes were made in the sanatorium's history. In 1950, a chapel and a 5-floor residence hall called Adams Hall were erected. Tuberculosis was a horrible disease, and they felt they needed more beds for their patients. What fell, though, was the number of patients in the late 1950s. A treatment and cure was presented which eliminated the need for such hospitals. As a result, the Indiana State Sanatorium and its 120,000 square feet had to close its doors in 1968. The site remained abandoned until the mid-1970s, when private investors and the state proposed to repurpose the site as an assisted living facility. They replaced the tuberculosis ward with a modern new complex, and the Lee Allen Bryant Healthcare Facility opened its doors in 1978. They were plagued by a lack of patients from the start, so the state transferred patients from mental institutions to the facility. This resulted in a mixture of patients deemed as mentally ill with those in need of assisted living. This mix led to a lot of negative attention toward the facility. There were many accounts of accidents at the facility, which were the result of mistreatment and ill conduct to the patients. One such incident was in 2006, when a patient reportedly went missing, only to find his body in the woods, hanging from a tree. And in 2009, when an employee shot a coworker in the powerhouse and then turned the gun on himself. They eventually lost their license in 2011 and then suddenly closed their doors in 2012, leaving hospital equipment and patient files as if they just disappeared from existence. And speaking of mental health, we at Spirits with Spirits are committed to review this site to find out if it is truly haunted, or if we're the ones who should be committed.